You might think mastering is there to fix things at the end or make it ready for release, but that's just actually not the truth. Especially nowadays, with modern music making, with most people mastering their own songs, there is actually a way smarter approach, something that I'm trying, because I think once you're doing it the professional way, it's not about fixing things. The master chain is actually there to show you the boundaries and show you immediately whenever you make a mistake at another spot within the song so you can go there and correct it. So the core principle of my master chain is actually to show me things, to scream at me whenever I do a mistake. Whenever a kick, bass are too loud, it will immediately detect it and tell it to me. I will hear it immediately, and also with the methods I've set up, it will actually show it to me directly. And that for me is way more worth something to know whenever I make a mistake to correct it at the core, at the root of it. And that's more like the mixing, sound design stage that are coming beforehand, than trying at the end to slap something on top that should then correct for these things that are there from the beginning. So this is a more sensible approach. It makes way more sense to me to just go in there and know what's happening. So basically my approach to a master chain is having plugins there that detect the mistakes and then going back into the mixing phase and correcting them. It's not about them actually doing most of the work and pulling things into a direction where it should be. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially not when you master your own songs, because why put something broad on everything and fix something within it that you could actually also do on the individual tracks. There are some exceptions, we'll get there. First up, I got the Pro Q. It EQs just the very, very low. And it doesn't EQ it to correct for it. It is there for me actually to be able to listen to it. So here on the song, I can actually play it. And then I got the EQ cutting at 35. And with that kind of headphone symbol, I can just listen to what it's actually cutting. As you can hear, below 35 hertz, there's not much left. So I know I've done everything correctly on the individual tracks. If you solo 30, 20, 40 hertz and listen to it, and there's too much boom, too much energy, too many elements, then you know you need to go back and lower the individual tracks that cause that problem. Same for the next cut. It's around 100 hertz, and it's only in the stereo. So it only cuts the stereo information below. So if you listen to this solo again, so there's not a whole lot of information, and that's what it's supposed to be like. If I ever hear something there, I identify the single element that does it and go in there and correct it. So the EQ is a detection tool for me for the very low end mono and stereo. Also, before I forget to mention it, I actually mix into this chain. This chain goes on very, very early. I'd say within the first hour of me working on a song, I select a kick, a bass, like some melodic elements, a main synthesizer, some vocals. And once I got this rough idea of a song, and I think it actually is worth like proceeding, I slap on this chain, because then mixing into it, whenever I do something wrong or an element is too loud, too energetic, it will immediately eat up the space, because the space is already limited and constrained by the master chain. So imagine like a wall around something, and whenever you put too much stuff in there, you'll see that the wall gets too much pressure, cracks, or tips over, and that's the point where you know I've put too much in there. That's basically the core principle of this chain. It's a detector, and it's a very crazy detector because it tells you immediately whenever it's wrong. Next up, bus compressor, and the settings aren't that important. I have it on there just, again, as a detector, and it gives me something I need to do on the master chain. It's like that little glue, and more importantly, the pump. Like for this style of melodic, techno, dark, experimental, I want it to pump, and that's happening right here. But just a hint.
watching you.
So the needle is just like maybe reducing it by 1 dB. Whenever that needle is moving too fast, it means that too many things are actually triggering the compressor. Right now, it's mostly the kick triggering it. And whenever it's not moving with the beat, with the kick, I know that something else is on top triggering it. Especially for EDM music, where the kick is the most important, the most prominent kind of factor within the song, you can use the needle to detect that. If it moves between the kicks, maybe your bass is too loud. If you do different styles of music, you need to approach it in a different way. For example, I don't know, for like dark pop music, it's very common to have a tiny kick that just gives you the click, and then the sub bass is the thing that covers everything. And then I want to make sure that that main energy element isn't pushing the needle too hard. If it does, I'm just reducing the threshold. So we have less compression actually going on. Also, the makeup is something I use all the time because that's my main adjuster for everything else that comes afterwards. If the other plugins are being driven too hard, I go back in here and dial it down again. I don't adjust anything really with the plugins that are coming up next, except maybe for this one, Gluphos. I use it again to detect things. So let me just play a section and look at the graph, what it actually does.
The whole world is watching you. The whole world is watching.
So it's taking some of the fundamental frequencies that are usually the loudest and overlapping the most with everything else, and it's pushing them down a little. You can also do recover, where it does basically kind of the opposite. Tame takes the parts where frequencies overlap and reduces them. I like it because it, again, gives me a certain glue that I can only do on the master. And it also pushes all of the elements that are sticking out like a little more towards. Again, our example with like the wall you build and you put stuff in there, it helps you to, like if an element has too many spikes, it pushes them in so you got more space within your like area where you want to have all of the musical elements below zero so they are not being chopped off. I also use it if I need to brighten the song or dull it down. So for example, if I have too many like harshness, too much high frequencies going on, I reduce the brightness or I increase it if I think the song doesn't have enough. This one right here is a very dark song. While producing it, there weren't a whole lot of elements, and the ones that were there were too quiet, so I pushed the brightness by 11%. And what I absolutely love is it's, of course, smartly reacting to your signal. So if you slap an EQ, a normal EQ on your master chain and increase all of the high frequencies by 3 dB, everything gets 3 dB louder in the high frequencies. This one right here reacts to if elements are actually playing. Also, while we're at it, you can exclude the bass frequencies if you want to, or the high frequencies if it does something you don't like. For me personally, it works the best between like 80 to almost the very top end. So it again like cramps everything together and smooths it out without destroying it. The next plugin actually does a little of a destruction. It's called Kraftur, actually by the same company. By the way, if you're interested right now, still Black Friday season. Those two I can actually just recommend. I personally, again, use them the way I showcase to you right now, as detectors, as a smart EQ, and Kraftur is for driving the sound, saturating it a tiny bit, and also clipping it. And both of them have like psychoacoustic properties to them, where my brain doesn't even understand how it works, but it actually sounds good. And I think, let me check. Yeah, they're actually both reduced by half. So if you're interested, I'll link it down below. Again, if you get both of them or one of them, if you're missing the other one, it's still cheaper to let someone else master your song. And I think it's more important to learn to detect mistakes and get rid of them yourself at the root than paying someone else to try and sneakily with some magic plugins like dive deep into a full audio file and trying to recover things or like make them disappear. It's really hard. Like there's a limited amount you can correct when mastering. Anyways, Krafttour. I just open it up, put the drive to 10 dB, and again I'm mixing into all of it. So it's actually giving me the saturation, the modern sound. It's not as much because the dry, wet, multi is in the middle. So it's actually mixing those three equally, and it's not that much. If you just put a single in there, the drive will be really 10. Right now it's of course reduced because it's mixed with the dry signal. And then there's the clipper on top. And the drive, again, I need to do it on the master because I want everything to have that hint of saturation that sounds the same on every single element, so it sounds more together. And I also want to have the clipper in there. I actually like how it sounds. Again, it's doing psychoacoustic stuff, like using and emphasizing frequencies where our ear might be more susceptible or less. And it chops off everything that is sticking out too much of my mix. So let's say I have a kick and it's way too loud. The clipper will chop it off. And that chopping off of it, you can actually hear. You can hear the artifacts. You can hear that it's actually engaged. The kick sounds weird. And that's exactly when I know, okay, I'm driving it too hard. And then I go back into the mix and lower the kick, just as an example. Or kick and bass are too much. It directly, like I can directly hear it. Same, the next step in the chain is the L2. It doesn't do a whole lot.
It's watching you.
So as you can see, I set it to a point where it barely grabs the kick, where it starts to reducing it. And it also shows me immediately if there's something too loud. So for example, right now, it's barely grabbing the kick and grabbing a little bit of the vocal. If I now increase the vocal, just as an example, let's put the vocal up.
The whole world is watching you. The whole world is watching.
So you can hear and see it's triggering the limiter even more. I can push it even harder.
The whole world is watching you. The whole world is watching. It's watching you.
And that's what I mean with this chain punishes you. If you make something too loud, too energetic, it starts pushing everything else to the side. So again, we got our wall, we put everything in there, and if one element is too big, it pushes everything to the side. You can immediately hear that it sounds really bad. You can see the cracks in the wall and it's almost collapsing. So I know this one element is putting too much pressure into this space and I need to lower it. If I then think it's not loud enough, I can't hear it, I know I have to dig deeper. I have to go back and listen to what else is playing at the same time, because then something else might mask it. Maybe I want to have this one element louder, everything else is already too loud and I need to lower it. This chain is your limit. You cannot go above it. If you do, you get punished. So it restricts you from going there, which forces you to fix things at the root. If things are like being pushed too hard, there's too much going on, too much energy, too much low end, too much mid, vocal, guitar, everything on top stacked. And then you level it by ear and it will immediately tell you it's sticking out as a whole. So you need to go in and reduce the individual parts. Even sometimes it tells me, hey, what you're trying to do just doesn't work. Certain types of electronic music are so focused on the sound that you actually need to make the music follow the technical stuff. So for example, if you make dubstep or anything else that is more technical than musical, it's more important to get that high class, super precise Skrillex-like sound. And if you want to achieve that, it's usually by making every individual sound as good and as loud and as compact as possible, and making sure it doesn't play with anything else at the same time. So, for example, sidechaining is just trying to do that whenever the kick hits, the bass is lowered. So both of them are not playing at the same time, because both at the same time, too much energy triggers your limiter, your clipper too much, and it will sound really bad. This way, you can, from the get-go, get a loud mix if you're struggling with that. If you have a destroyed mix, it will prevent you from doing so because it will warn you and scream at you that it's too much. And it helps me mixing a lot, because whenever something is too loud, I can immediately see it within the plugins, within the analyzer, within the Pro L. I hear the artifacts that are created by the clipper chopping off too much of a certain element, and then I go back into the individual element and fix it. So if you remove my master chain, the song is still basically the same, and that's what actually should be the case. You don't want to do too much magic and twisting around stuff on the master. It's just not good. Way less control, way more effort, way more work. If you have the feeling I have too little high frequencies, go back into the mixing and check all of your high frequency elements and boost maybe one or two of them. If you do it on the master, everything again gets boosted, way less control. So yeah, if you're doing your own stuff, that's how I would approach it to get the best result. Of course, you can still then send it off to a mastering engineer. He'll be happy because you will have a lot less work. Because the first thing a mastering engineer does is putting a limiter on top, driving everything into, and checking how much space they have left within the box, and then surgically trying to pick these elements and trying to make them bigger if there's still room left. But you can do it yourself with way more control, saving you money. Instead of paying a master engineer, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, 100, 150, just get 2 or 3 plugins, put it on there, and see for yourself how it works. For me, it makes the entire music making technical process a whole lot easier, because it shows me whenever something is wrong. So this is more a detection master chain than a fixing master chain, which I think is the more professional approach. And that's basically it. Try it out for yourself. This is my personal approach that I've kind of figured out over the years. I also started with just copying other people's settings, but that just doesn't work. Every song is very individual, every producer and style is very individual, but this video is more about giving you this new or different approach, trying to use the chain as a detector and not fixer.